Thank you, Jill. All right. Uh, I've had a lot of spiritual fathers and mothers. Some of them are actually in this audience today. But I want to talk about Thomas Merton today. Uh, he's certainly one of the great spiritual fathers, and for me, uh, I was reading Merton in the late 70s while I was practicing Zen meditation. The Zen guys led me to Merton, even though I went through all Catholic schools, including Notre Dame. I was just vaguely aware of Merton and didn't see him as anything special. I had just name recognition. But one thing led to another, and I was reading the early Merton, and I ended up. It's really a case of quantum entanglement. If you ever want to know what that is, I'm reading Merton, and one thing led to another, the way it will in the quantum universe. And I took a group of 20, 20 or so, 25, I think, uh, high school guys from the school I was teaching in Texas. Uh, 20 hours in a bus up to the monastery, Gethsemane Abbey, just down the road from here. And they never had a group of. They don't have groups there, and they never had a group of high school guys before. And then it was great. And the next year, I brought another group up that was in 80 and 81. And that was the first and last time they ever did this. But I was so impressed and got hooked that the next year we left our jobs in Houston uh, with no jobs in Kentucky, and we just agreed. We took a quantum leap, uh, and we just said we're going to go up there. We were meant to go up there, and we did, and came to this place in 1982 that I'm sitting right now out in Loose Leaf Hollow. And so Merton had a lot to do with that. The Abbey had a lot to do with that. And Father Gregory, who was my spiritual director for 18 years, who died in 2000, a terrific amount to do with it. So I want to pass on just the essence of what I've been learning from Merton. And I mean learning, not learned, because I read Merton every day and a little bit of Merton every day from his journals. And then over time, the poem I'm going to read you, which I wrote several years ago, it changes because what I keep learning from Merton changes. Merton was change itself. That's why he fits so well with Buddhism. That's why Merton was one of the few Christian folks that understood Buddhism in the late 50s, the early 60s. He understood it because he was change itself, and he knew that. Uh, and that's the essence of Buddhism. Everything changes. And so this poem's it's been in constant revision for probably now 10 years now. But I'll give you the latest version of it because it's to me, at least for my understanding, for my personal perspective, this is the essence of Merton in a very short space. And like I said, it's open to revision because I haven't stopped learning from the man. Uh, so this, I just call this In Light of Merton. And it has many of Merton's words and phrases, of course, but it's more importantly, how Merton has filtered through me. And I think I'll read it a couple times and then we'll unpack it a little bit. We'll open it up. And there's a lot of power in Merton, and hopefully some of it will come across to you today. In light of Merton, the true nature of our being is an infinite spaciousness, which is untouched by sin and illusion. It's a truly fecund openness, which is unstained by the fantasies of our mind or the brutalities of our will. Merton called it le point vierge, French term that meant the virgin point. He said it was like a pure diamond blazing with the invisible light of heaven. It's in everybody. And if we could only unveil it and live in light of it, we would radiate a love that would make all the darkness and all the cruelty vanish forever. We practice to unveil it and to learn how to live in light of it. The true nature of our being is an infinite spaciousness which is untouched by sin and illusion. A truly fecund openness which is unstained by the fantasies of our mind and the brutalities of our will. Merton called it le point vierge, the virgin point. It's like a pure diamond blazing with the invisible light of heaven. It's in everybody. And if we could only unveil it and live in light of it, we would radiate a love that would make all the darkness and all the cruelty vanish forever. We practice to unveil it and to learn how to live in light of it. Yeah. Uh, with some people, when they come and especially when they take a room in the Merton room, that's their bedroom. They see all the books there, 60 books published, and more to come. They're publishing reading notes of Merton now. And they said, "Well, where would I start?" Yeah, that's a good question. Um, this is where I've come to this poem. So let me open it up for you a little bit. I don't really feel like I can explain the poem. The poem sort of is itself, but focusing on a few words sometimes opens it up. It starts out with the image of the true nature of our being with a capital B. Who are we? The true nature of our action of our being. For Merton, it became an infinite spaciousness, which was untouched by sin and illusion. We had something that, and I've mentioned this, especially to one woman who was suffering from trauma, from uh, being molested by her own father when she was 3 or 4. Uh, I give this image from Merton that, and said, he never touched that, untouched by sin and illusion. That was never touched. And that gave her a new view. And I think it's true, and it's so important to know. And even the perpetrators of these things, that part of them is not touched by what they perpetrate. There's something deeper and pure. It's a truly fecund openness. The word fecund is it's a favorite word of John O'Donohue, if you know O'Donohue. Fecund is such a great word because it really means it's a fecund openness, an openness that is just propagates life. If something is fecund, it just like brimming with life. It's a perfect environment for life, for you to be. And he saw the true nature of our being as a fecund openness. Merton did. That's where the 60 books came from. He didn't really have that much time to write. He was queuing up 8 times a day for prayer in the monastery, and then he was a novice master. He would he was sending out 25 letters a day. That was nothing for Merton to type out 25 letters to fourth graders and to all these famous people and the non-famous people. And then in the midst of that, he wrote 60 great books, most of them great. And how did he do it? Well, he had tapped this fecundity, okay, that is tappable for a contemplative. That's what we're doing here, you see. We haven't even scratched the surface. I haven't even scratched the surface of what uh, life is really ready to brim out of there. And none of this fecund openness it's not stained at all by the fantasies of our mind or the brutality of our will. We all do we're all out there and we all do things. We say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. We all do that, every one of us, but doesn't stain that. Doesn't stain that, you see. And then this interesting point, which is, I'm not going to go into it, but it's been the occasion of a lot of hilarity around here. The fact that he was talking about Le Point Vierge, the virgin point. He was getting into this. He was breaking open in a way this particular myth of the virgin birth, which is not just in Christianity. It's in Buddhism. It's in Tibetan Buddhism. It's in a lot of different traditions, and he's breaking that open. First of all, myth doesn't mean it's not true. Myth means it's, first of all, dealing with a transcendental subject, a subject about the infinite, and also then it's your myth. It's about you. So when he talks about this, this place in you that's infinitely spaciousness, infinitely fecund, and not stained by anything, that virgin point is in you. He gives a new meaning to, what in Catholicism is called the Virgin Mary. The myth is that it didn't take anything from the outside to get the woman pregnant. And that's the myth that's everybody's myth. It's not going to come from the outside. It's an inside job. It wasn't just Mary. Mary represents all of us, as does Padmasambhava, if you know the Tibetan tradition. He was born of a virgin on a lotus leaf. These are myths, of course, which are beautiful stories, but they're about us and they're about our infinite potential. That it doesn't come from the outside. See, and that's really how to read myth. Myth is always about yourself. You read the Odyssey. It's all about your travels. You're Odysseus. You're all the beasts he meets too. And so that's how to read myths. So this idea of the virgin, she's a reminder to you that you all have this birth potential. It's very interesting. The word that Jesus used in Aramaic for the kingdom, it's in the so-called Lord's Prayer, thy kingdom come, is Malkuta. Malkuta is a feminine gendered Aramaic word, and it means a sense of fecundity and it's located in the center of the body or to the lower belly. It's just like you have a ability to give birth to yourself. And it's an inside job. And that's the one line I have that's out from it's in everybody. Now, this is an incredible, if you're going to live a contemplative life, you find yourself going out on a series of limbs. and that is the big limb for both Buddhism and Christianity, true, that it's in everybody. The Buddha nature isn't just in some. The indwelling presence of the spirit is not just in some. And we don't deserve it. And we can't earn it. And nobody is creepy enough to not have it. And nobody has to earn it at all. It's again like the parable of the tenants and the Lord, in Matthew 20, where he gives everybody a great wage, whether it's, and they're all, hey, I worked harder than they did. Doesn't matter. We all have it. Now that is a limb to go out on. But that's what it means to be contemplative in either the Christian or the Buddhist senses. You already have the goods. It's like a pure diamond blazing with the invisible light of heaven. The wealth of it. Diamonds. You know, we're looking for it out here all the time. We're looking for it in a certain situation. We're looking for it with a certain person. We're looking for it in the future. It's right here. It's in everybody. Now, if you can actually accept that, a lot of your crazy illusions fall apart if you realize you have this Buddha nature, you have this Christ nature, you have this indwelling preciousness. So if you can go out on that limb in the contemplative world, then the thing is, and if we could only unveil it. So, I have my handy, these are actually a scarf from the Tibetan tradition, but it does well for the veil. You see, I can see I can see all the squares, and I can actually pick out some of you people behind one veil. Behind two veils, I can't see anything. I could look up and I could see the light coming in through the windows here at Loose Leaf Hollow, but I can't even see in four veils, I can't see the light. And so there's these veils that cover our true being. And so it really sort of makes clear what we're doing in a practice. Most people, myself included, back in 1972 when I started Zen meditation, I was sitting to get something. Who doesn't show up for things to get something? Certainly in our culture, which is a consumer culture. But this is the hokey pokey. This is the contemplative turnabout, the turning point that you realize you have everything. You have the most precious thing. This depth of consciousness, it's unbelievable, but it's veiled. And so it changes what you're trying to experience in contemplative practice. This is what you're doing. You're letting go. We hold on to these veils. And what are the veils? Well, they're this illusion or that illusion that says you're a separate self. And they're all about creating and maintaining that illusion that you are separate from the other 25 people on the scene here, separated by these little lines and boxes. It's an illusion. It's not true. And every time you let go of one of those, Merton banged away at the monastery for 17 years, 8 times a day, showed up, chanted the Psalms, went to Mass, plus his own private prayer, so more than 8 times, but 8 times a day he showed up and just was letting go of the veils. And I'll tell you, after 17 years of that, this will give you some resolve here and perseverance, hopefully. After 17 years of that, writing in his own personal journal, he didn't think he had gotten anywhere. And there were only a couple of weeks before that great last dropping of the veil for a brief second on the corner in the center of Louisville, March 19th, 1958. He'd been in since 41. So 17 years of doing this every day. And even though he was at loggerheads with Dom James for many, many years, Dom James had to admit, Merton showed up. He was his most faithful monk. He said he showed up, rain or shine. He showed up, whether they were fighting, whether Merton was a 4 on the Enneagram, so he was like volatile. He was either really high or really low most of the time. It didn't matter. He showed up, chanted the Psalms, showed up for Mass, showed up, and every time it was just dropping the veils. Okay, and a couple weeks before that great unveiling that we recount. It's on a plaque on the corner of 4th and Muhammad Ali. He thought he had just wasted his time. Who hasn't had that thought about doing contemplative practice? Like, what the hell am I doing here? What do I have to show for it? Well, Merton should be helped you there, because he even was writing about it about 2 weeks before. He felt like things weren't expanding. Things were like narrowing down. He felt sort of confined. He was wanting to break out, but he just kept practicing. And then not in church, not in choir, not at Mass, but in the middle of the shopping district, surrounded by all these people. who normally you would consider as strangers. And then he saw all of them. He saw that shining diamond uh, from all of them. For how long, we don't know. Now, it won't happen this way for most of us, but it does happen for some. And these are great teachers because they're saying, hey, you're all working on the same thing, but don't try to get anything. See, and if we could only unveil it and live in light of it, that's the other thing. Merton he had that unveiling. In the next 10 years of his life, he changed course. He started writing about different things. He started speaking about different things. He started standing for different things. Uh, so if we can not only unveil it, but then live in light of it, that's the trick. It's kind of two-part thing. Then you conform your life to what you know to be true. That's not so easy. See, we would, if we could do that, we would radiate a love that would make all the darkness and all the cruelty vanish forever. Now we're talking about as people start to do this, you have to work, on your own. Only you can sit on the cushion, as Suzuki used to say. But then that spreads. The last poem we did last week, you can become a kind of personal hotspot that radiates this stuff out. Other people can pick up that signal, you see. And then finally, we practice to unveil it and to learn how to live in light of it. Unless you have some kind of practice, you're just accumulating. And your practice should be like Richard Rohr said it best. He said, contemplative practice is a process of subtraction. Letting go, letting go, letting go. Because we did this thing one time with the hands, with a fist, and then if you're holding on to whatever it is, whatever belief or whatever, it's tense and it takes energy. But then to do this, relaxation and letting go should be the same thing. They are the same thing. More and more you relax. And the ace in the hole is it's in everybody. What you're looking for is in you too. Don't think that you're the exception to this rule. We all do in a way because we don't give up looking for it somewhere else. But no, there are no exceptions to this rule. That's a contemplative view in many traditions. Most traditions that they all have some version of that. Hey, you've got it. But like I said, 4 of these, you can't see it. It's this thing again. Diamond in there. When you're shook up, you can't see anything. Can't see out, can't see in. So part of the meditation, of course, the first part, let everything settle down. Let everything settle down. And there is something to let go of as we descend to this place. You can actually do a kind of descent through the body and just hang out there. And in the silence, in the darkness, and let yourself be energized by it. And it's as much what you're letting go to get there as what you receive there, you see. It's learning to let go of that stuff that has no importance whatsoever. Yeah, the superficial stuff. So, all right. Let's shift ourselves to meditation mode now, and we'll do a descent to this point.